Hi, my name is Alan Grace B. Trigosa, and I'm your reporter. My report is all about recto law. What is recto law? Recto law, authored in 1933 by the great academician Senator Claro M. Recto. The statute was called Act Number 4122. Recto law is also known as installment sales law. Recto law covers contract of sale of personal property by installment, contract pertaining to the lessees of the property with option to buy when the lessor has deprived the lessee of the possession or enjoyment of the thing. The recto law comprises Article 1484 to 1486 of the Civil Code. The purpose of recto law is to prevent potential abuses by the seller in the event that the buyer is unable to make further installment for a property. Article 1484. In a contract of sale of personal property, the price of which is payable in installment, the vendor may exercise any of the following remedies. First, exact fulfillment of the obligation should the vendor fail to pay. It means you have an obligation to pay the agreement about the property. Second, cancel the sale should the vendor failure to pay cover two or more installments. Third, foreclose the chattel mortgage on the things sold if one has been constituted should the vendor failure to pay cover two or more installments. In this case, he shall have no further action against the purchaser to recover any unpaid balance of the price. Any agreement to the contrary shall be void. Provision. Article 1485. The preceding article shall be applied to contracts purporting to the lessees of personal property with option to buy when the lessor has deprived the lessees the possession or enjoyment of the thing. Article 1486. In the case referred to in two preceding articles, a stipulation that the installment or rent paid shall not to be returned to the vendee or lessee shall be valid insofar as the same may not be unconscionable under the circumstances. Always remember that all remedies are alternative, not cumulative. In order to understand more about the recto law, please watch this.
Trips, and she would want to bring her friends along. So, Dora bought a white Toyota Hi-Ace van from Mr. Diego for 800,000 pesos. They both agreed that it would be a sale in installments, and Dora would have to pay in 40 monthly installments of 20,000 pesos each. Mr. Diego wishes to have a security, but Dora has no other property. So, Mr. Diego required Dora to execute a chattel mortgage on the van. After paying the first 12 installments, Dora was experiencing some financial difficulties, leading her to default in paying the 13th one. Now, what is the remedy of the seller, Mr. Diego?
To the recto law, the remedy of Mr. Diego is to demand fulfillment of the obligation, since this remedy applies regardless of the number of installments defaulted.
Now, let's say Dora was experiencing more serious financial difficulties and defaulted in the payment of the 13th, 14th, and 15th installments. Now, what can Mr. Diego do?
The buyer has already failed to pay two or more installments. Mr. Diego can choose to either 1. Exact fulfillment of the obligation, 2. Cancel the sale, 3. Foreclose the chattel mortgage on the things sold. Remember that since these remedies are alternative, Mr. Diego can only choose one.
Mr. Diego chose the remedy of rescission. What are the buyer's and seller's rights and obligations in rescission?
Mr. Diego Mr. Diego chooses to cancel the sale, Dora is obliged to return the van and can demand the return of the installments already made, unless there is stipulation about forfeiture. On the other hand, Mr. Diego is obliged to return the payments Dora already made and is entitled to the return of the van.
However, if Mr. Diego chooses to foreclose the chattel mortgage, what will happen?
Mr. Diego will get the van and sell it to the public auction. If the van was sold for 800,000, then well and good. However, during the public auction, the van did not command a high price and was sold for only 500,000.
In this case, can Mr. Diego demand Dora to pay for the deficiency?
Leading to the Rexall law, even if there is a deficiency, the buyer is not compelled to pay for it. Therefore, Mr. Diego shall have no further action against the buyer for any deficiency.
So thanks to the recto law, at least on the part of Dora, she has no van anymore. But on the brighter side, she has no obligation as well to pay for the deficiency.
Republic Act Number 6552, Realty Installment Buyer Act, or also known as Maceda Law. For sale of real properties on installment, the Maceda Law serves as a safeguard to buyers, specifically installment basis, who has paid at least 2 years of installment. The Maceda Law is an act that protects property owner from unfavorable terms that may occur from sale transaction funded by an installment agreement by describing the rights of the buyer regarding refund entitlement and grace periods. The following rights in case he default in the payment of the succeeding installment: A. To pay without additional interest the unpaid installment due within the total grace period earned by him. The grace period is equivalent to 1 month for each year of installment paid by the buyer. B. In the event that the contract is cancelled, the seller is obligated to refund to the buyer the cash surrender value of the payment on the property. Alternatively, the buyer has the right to pay for any installment in advance or even the full unpaid balance of the purchase price. Next is Presidential Decree Number 957, the Subdivision and Condominiums Buyer Protective Decree, the Condominium Act. The Condominium Act seeks to regulate the sale of subdivision, lots, and condominiums. It was created because of the increase in reports revealing the many real estate subdivisions owners, developers, operators, and all sellers failed to comply with their obligation to provide and maintain properly subdivisions, roads, drainage, sewerage, water system, lighting system, and other similar basis requirements, which endangered the health and safety of home and lot buyers. The pertinent provision of the Condominium Act on installment sales are as follows. Section 23. Non-forfeiture payments. No installment payment made by a buyer in a subdivision or condominium project for the lot or until he contracted to buy shall be forfeited in favor of the owner or developer when the buyer after due notice the owner or developer. Cease from further payment due to the failure of the owner or developer to develop the subdivision or condominium project according to the approved plans and within the time limit for complying with the same. Such buyer may, at his option, be reimbursed the total amount paid including amortization, interest, but excluding delinquency interest, with the interest thereon at the legal rate. Section 24. Failure to pay installment. The right of the buyer in the event of this failure to pay the installment due for reason other than the failure of the owner or developer to develop the project shall be governed by Republic Act Number 6552, Maceda Law. Thank you for listening.